Charles Kinnear dedicated 3 decades to the police service. The 52-year-old was well known in the city for investigating its seedy underworld of organized crime. His eldest son was the last to speak to him, mere minutes before he was assassinated by an as yet unknown assailant, believed to have been lying in wait for him. Carlisle Kinnear came out of the house to find his father slumped behind the wheel, shot multiple times.
I'm not angry at the police, yes, it hurts, but there's questions, why was the guards removed? It's too late now, my dad ran his race. There's nothing further to say. I salute him, I'm proud of him.
His wife has in the past spoken publicly about living in fear when police protection was removed from the family home.
We were always worried. I think the fact that my husband is no longer with us, I think they might have wanted to get to us to get to him. That's my thought. And I think now that he's gone, I don't really, because obviously they don't share the investigations and stuff with their families.
The police minister concedes Kinnear's death is a blight on the service.
We have failed the Kinnear as the police ourselves. We could have done things better, and we believe that if those things were followed, there are things that were supposed to be done that were not done. There are things that were supposed not have been done which have been done.
There is promising answers as to who might be behind Kinnear's death within 72 hours. Lindsay Dentlinger, Cape Town.
On the 18th of September 2020, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Kinnear was shot and killed outside his home in the suburbs of Bishop Lavis in the city of Cape Town. The colonel was shot multiple times in the upper body while seated in his white Toyota Corolla, and the whole incident was caught on CCTV cameras. On the day of Kinnear's murder, which was a Friday afternoon, the hitman, at exactly 14:50 p.m., can be seen wearing a red hoodie and black Adidas sweatpants. He was captured by house cameras belonging to Kinnear's neighbours, making his way down Gearing Street in Bishop Lavis, where Kinnear's house was located. At 15:03 p.m, he was captured by Kinnear's own security cameras. He can be seen walking on the sidewalk opposite Kinnear's house, holding his hands behind his back. At that time, Kinnear had just arrived home from work. He was on a phone call with his eldest son, telling him to move his car out the driveway so that he could be able to get inside the yard. Kinnear's white Toyota Corolla is parked on the other side of the road, just a few distance away from the man who was about to take his life. 30 seconds later, the gunman is seen standing next to Kinnear's car, pointing a firearm at him. He shot Kinnear 5 times, in the head and chest, killing him instantly. According to reports, the unknown gunman had been loitering in Kinnear's neighborhood for at least 6 hours prior to the murder. He was also caught on multiple house cameras, speaking to numerous people during that 6-hour period. However, after shooting Kinnear, he vanished into thin air, never to be seen or heard about again.
MEC, what are your thoughts on the incident that occurred here, taking into account that the minister was in Western Cape to deal with instances like this just 2 days ago?
Yes, in fact, it's a declaration of war on the state. And I think this is just a symbolic gesture by these gang leaders to declare war on the state. And I think the minister will really deal with this declaration of war in the appropriate way. We really came out today just to come and extend our sympathies to Mrs. Kinnear, who I actually happen to know very well. She's from Radio Tygerberg. And I really want to say that, this is the second attack on this house. There was a previous attack where they tried to throw a hand grenade. Those guys are luckily in prison at the moment, all of them. And they're appearing on Monday, I think, but the bailies, are opposed in that case. I think when we move on, I think some of us need some answers why they withdrew the security that was given to this family. And I think the minister is visiting tomorrow. So I think he will also deal with the issue of security to this family right now. I think that's the point I think we need to make. But I think we need to leave the investigation in the capable hands of the state and into the police so that they can get to the behind not only the shooter, but who planned it, who ordered the shooting on this case.
Kinnear, a South African police service detective for 31 years, was buried in his uniform, something he rarely wore while alive owing to the undercover nature of his work investigating organised crime in the Western Cape. Within the South African Police Service, Kinnear was a high-ranking member of the elite SAPS anti-gang unit, working in the Cape Flats, a gang-infested region. The anti-gang unit is a police unit that was established in November 2018 to fight the violent gangs and criminal organisations that have been terrorising the Western Cape for decades. Before his death, Kinnear was a decorated lieutenant colonel and a highly accomplished senior detective in the South African Police Service. Due to the nature of his job, Colonel Kinnear is believed to have never driven the same route home from the police station, twice. He also made a point of varying the time he returned home each day. He avoided any recognizable patterns in his daily activities out of necessity. However, his persistence was not enough to save his life. On the 3rd of September 2020, 2 weeks before Kinnear was assassinated, a former police officer named Bradley Goldblatt had reported to the police that Kinnear was in serious danger. He claimed that Kinnear's cell phones were being tracked. Bradley claimed to have also reported the matter a second time to Crime Intelligence and the Hawks on the 16th of September, 2 days before Kinnear's death, saying that he had found out that his business partner was using location-based technology to track the location and movements of the senior detective through his cell phones. Bradley Goldblatt is a former police officer. Back in 2018, after resigning from the South African Police Service in Edenvale, he started working for his father's company. His father had founded a company called iTrack Solutions at the beginning of 2018. The company sells software which allows you to be able to track an individual through the SIM card of their phone, and the target would not be aware of their phone being tracked. One of iTrack Solutions' first customer was 39-year-old Zane Killian from Springs, Johannesburg. Zane Killian is a former professional rugby player. He made a name for himself as a prop forward for the Griquas and Vakkies South African rugby teams. However, he stopped playing rugby after testing positive for a banned substance, and soon after, he started a debt collection business that specialized in car repossessions. In November 2018, Killian approached Goldblatt to obtain a tracking system. He wanted to use the system to track his clients when doing bank repossessions on vehicles. Goldblatt then gave him the software so he could use his cell phone to track the exact position of any SIM card. Throughout 2019, Killian would continue to pay monthly fees for use of the system in order to do his car repossession business. However, it would be in 2020, the year Kinnear was assassinated, when Bradley Goldblatt realized that his software was being used in a bloody gang war. In 2020, over a year after having access to the tracking software, it is alleged that Zane Killian illegally tracked hundreds of South Africans. According to a News 24 report, Killian used Goldblatt's platform on his own cell phone to track as many as 680 people. Key members of the Western Cape anti-gang unit detective team, including Kinnear's co-workers, were among them. In addition to Kinnear and other members of the Western Cape anti-gang unit, it is alleged that Killian primarily targeted civil law enforcers, particularly top Cape Town lawyers.
In other news, police are hunting for two masked gunmen who opened fire on prominent Cape Town lawyer William Booth. The men, wearing surgical masks, shot at Booth while he was standing in his garage. Our reporter Monique Mortlock has been following that story for us.
William Booth is not the first Cape Town lawyer to have come under literal fire in recent years, but he is one of the few to have survived. In December last year, Advocate Vernon Jantjies was shot and killed outside a shop in Mitchell's Plain, while in 2018, Pete Mihalik was shot and killed outside his son's school, and in 2016, we saw Nuruddin Hassan also losing his life in a fatal shooting. We have seen here on the scene several detectives combing the area and inspecting the crime scene, including Western Cape's head of detectives, Jeremy Veery, who did not wish to comment We have also been told by an officer here on the ground that Booth is shaken up. He does not wish to speak to media, but he will be placed in protective custody. Police officers are investigating this attempted murder and are in search of those two gunmen. Motive at this stage is yet unknown.
On the 9th of April 2020, William Booth survived an assassination attempt on his home in Higovali in the city of Cape Town. On that day, it is alleged that Kinnear had started to track Booth's cell phone from around 4:55 a.m. in the morning and continued doing so until about 45 minutes after the shooting incident. On the 10th of March 2020, a month before the attempt on Booth's life, it is alleged that Zane Kinnear had obtained a consumer trace report that disclosed Booth's residential address. It is also alleged that Kinnear had done a Google search for Booth's work address on the same date. Booth's cell phone was tracked 658 times. His cell phone number was allegedly the first to be tracked by Zane Kinnear. During this time, Zane Kinnear was also tracking the cell phone number of alleged Cape Town drug lord Jerome Donkey Boyson, the leader of the Sexy Boys gang. Donkey was tracked 193 times between the 6th of March and 17th of September 2020. Donkey is currently facing 36 criminal charges, including a murder charge for the killing of a man named Brian Weinstein. Of Kinnear's 5,308 tracking units which he bought from MyTrack Solutions, 2,442 were dedicated to finding Kinnear. Kinnear's tracking of Kinnear first began on the 3rd of March 2020, when he tracked him on the cell phone issued to the detective by the South African Police Service. Detective Kinnear was tracked through his 3 separate cell phone numbers, up until the day he was assassinated. According to reports, Kinnear was paid at least 2.3 million rands. For the 6 months period he was unlawfully tracking Kinnear. During the month of June, Kinnear tracked Colonel Kinnear while he was on a work trip to Johannesburg. He also kept him under close surveillance while Kinnear was staying at a Sandton guest house. A recovered WhatsApp conversation also revealed that Kinnear was in real-time communication with someone else about the security measures entry into the guest house property. During his frequent visits to Johannesburg, Detective Kinnear was in the grips of a massive gun licensing fraud case that has resulted in the arrest of several gang leaders and also high-ranking police officers. On the 1st of September 2020, Bradley Goldblatt received an automatic alert from the tracking system that the user, Zane Kinnear, is repeatedly tracking the same number. He would then audit Kinnear's profile and concentrated on the numbers of Charles Kinnear, 2 other members of the Western Cape anti-gang unit, and also Cape Town lawyer William Booth. He would then inform police on the 3rd of September, 15 days before Kinnear was assassinated, that his cell phone was being tracked by Kinnear. On the 16th of September, 2 days before Kinnear was assassinated, Goldblatt said he noticed a significant increase in the tracking and again informed the police. However, nothing was done. On the day that Kinnear was assassinated, which was the 18th of September, Zane Kinnear initially started to track the senior detective at 2:32 a.m. in the morning, which placed him at his house. He would follow him 38 times that day from his office to downtown Cape Town, where Kinnear attended a provincial command meeting, and back again before heading home. He would monitor Kinnear's movements up until 15:25 p.m. in the afternoon. Colonel Kinnear was shot at approximately 3 p.m. In the evening of the 20th of September 2020, at approximately 9:30 p.m., it is alleged that over 40 members of the Hawks raided Kinnear's house. They confiscated his cell phones and his laptops. Zane Kinnear would eventually be detained and questioned at the Hawks headquarters in Germiston, Johannesburg. He was interviewed for 3 hours and kept at the Midrand police station before being transferred overnight to Cape Town.